Now available, a new app for remedial horse therapy from nose to tail, hoof to withers. Holistic Horseworks Remedies. Welcome to Holistic Horseworks Talks. Join us with founder April Love as we talk about equine care. Learn what you can do to keep your horse happy, healthy, rideable, and sound through their 30s. Have a question you'd like to submit to the podcast? Just email April at HolisticHorseWorks.com for a chance to get it featured on the next episode.
So welcome to the Equine Vaccines and Holistic Care Conference. I'm Dr. Jeff Grognet, and with me is April Love. And April is the owner of Holistic Horseworks. She empowers horse lovers to take healing into their own hands in order to keep their horses healthy, happy, and rideable through their 30s while saving thousands of dollars on veterinary care. She's created a unique International Institute of Complementary Therapies, and it's a approved methodology that she teaches through in-person, hands-on clinics, as well as virtual home study courses. She's also trained and vetted many instructors who share this practice worldwide. So welcome, April.
Thank you, Dr. Jeff. It's so great to be here with you and that you're on the same wavelength with us, being a small animal, mainly vet, right? And horses and everything.
Yeah, no, my horse background is I had a horse when I was younger. I competed on a horse, so I learned a lot. I was going to be a horse vet. And then through a thing called economics and chance, I ended up going into, you're going to love this term. In my class, the ones in small animal medicine and practices were called poodle merchants. So, so that's why I ended up being. But I've always gotten out on horses and done some incredible rides with them over like a couple of weeks long type thing. And so I love horses, and that's the reason I got into this, back into this as well. But also, there's a whole wealth of knowledge that people need to know, especially in holistic care in the equine world. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Absolutely. So you had mentioned previously when we talked, seeing issues in small dogs getting a lot of vaccines. So I wanted to share with you what I see with the horses. So when I go to a barn and work on like 5 or 6 horses, and there had been a vaccination clinic either that day or the previous days, their horse is just lethargic and stiff and sore, and the eyes are just so dull. And I said, you should report this to your vet who did the clinic, because they really need to know that your horse is having the bad side effects. A bunch of them said, my vet said it must have been a bad bale of hay that day. Couldn't have anything to do with the shots.
No, nothing to do with it at all. No, you're giving them new old hay the next day, of course. Yes. Okay.
And they're like, go look for the hay. I'm like, this is a barn with 30 horses. I can guarantee you that Bill is not here anymore. So, and what they were noticing, and there's some horses that if they have even just one shot, just really go down. And they're spending weeks or months on homeopathic supplements that we'll talk about in your part 2 of what to do about all this. And I'm trying to encourage people to get together and give the feedback, because what I have learned is the veterinarians aren't really trained to like pull blood. And I mean, not that they're not trained, but taught to pull blood, see if the horse has the antibody, see if the horse actually needs the shot. So,
Yeah.
and the issue at show barns and everything, and people wanting to do it all at once because of the show season, is the horse is getting 5 or 6 things in one day. Strangles and West Nile and 5-way, and it just adds up. And every shot, and my assistant had sent you a list of what is in some of the vaccines, and they were doing thimerosal, which is 49% mercury. So every time you're even sedating a horse for the equine dentist, and the worst thing you can do, oh my God, is do the vaccinations and the equine dentistry on the same day. The horse's system just really can't recover. So every time we do that shot, that's the mercury going in. and mercury and aluminum, because aluminum's in there as well. You can Google all that. We did bring up some stuff on the sheet that we give you of what that does. And mercury aluminum is part of Alzheimer's. They were noticing a lot of children getting a lot of vaccines who were okay at age 1 and 2 are now autistic at age 2, 3 and 4 because of all this affecting their system. I've talked with other equine massage therapists that don't do the deep body work that we do, and they say every year this client schedules 2 weeks after her vaccinations because her horse is not the same. So I asked her, what happened 2 weeks ago? And they'd say, oh, yeah, he got all his shots. And please don't do the worming on the same day. Everyone's like, oh, let's just get it all over at once and give my horse 3 days off. So my theory is, if you want to develop a strong immunity for strangles, just do the strangles. Don't do anything else. You're trying to build an immunity in the body to be strong for one thing. Why are you going to give the army 7 different things to work on? You can't build an effective immunity that way. If you have to do, West Nile or strangles, you need to space them apart. And people don't want to do that because of the show schedule, or it's cheaper when the vet comes to do all the horses. Right. Yeah. But the repercussions on the horses, who is doing the tests that says that they need this every year?
Yeah.
Are they doing
many
titers?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's usually the barns that are requesting it. So all the barn owners need to be able to get together as a group and say, we have done this research. We should be allowed to take titers. And everybody's like, what's take titers? That's where you actually pay the vet to draw blood, and they take it in and they can see that your horse has the antibodies for everything that they want to be vaccinated for. Yeah. If your horse has a strong immune system, why would you need to do the vaccination for shows and everything? So we need to push forward in that direction. Also, if you feel a need to do the shot, to just do 1 a month. People are like, well, that doesn't work in my schedule. How much did you spend the last time your horse wasn't doing good after all the vaccinations? How much time did you have off? Usually you'll see within 6 to 8 weeks, the hoofs starting to get a little bit worse because we've stressed the liver and kidneys. The thin soles, the crumbly hoof walls, all of that is about nutrient absorption, how many stresses the liver and kidneys have, the whole health of the horse. So I teach, and my program teaches, and my 8 certified global instructors, we teach about looking at the horse as a whole sentient being. The ting points and the meridians, the health, the clarity in their eyes. I guarantee you, when you do all those 5 shots in one day, if you take a picture of your horse's eye, it'll be clear and dark before, and it'll be cloudy the next day. Their whole system is just so on overload. It just looks dull. It's not vibrant and bright. So everyone will say he hasn't been the same since the shots 2 years ago. How do I pull all this out? And we'll talk about that in our next section of what we can do. But my clients that are stuck in barns, they can't move their horse. They can't afford to be anywhere else because this is the only situation, near them or whatever. It's setting them up for success. If I have to do this to my horse because I can't afford to move him, what can I do to help his system get through it better? Right?
Yeah.
So I always suggest a detox product that's liquid zeolites, natural cellular defense, or ACZ nano, and you can find those on Amazon. You want to give that to your horse like a week before, during, and after, because it really helps support the horse's system for all of those things going in. I had a friend that was a pharmacist, and when thimerosal was a big thing in all the vaccines and the companies wanted to take it out, they put in MSG. And she's like, they told me I will get fired if I ask my person, are you allergic to MSG as I give you this vaccination? She's not allowed to ask. So what is the preservative and carrier in our vaccines? Mercury, aluminum, MSG. What is it that is not good for the horse's system? Mm-hmm. And there's so many alternatives out there. So if you're seeing the dull eye, a stiff horse, when they do them all in the neck or all in the butt, that whole area is still holding all those toxins. How do you prepare the area first? How do you prepare the area after? My client had spent a lot of money on a hunter jumper cross country horse in Florida to ship it to California. He totally got vetted out, was totally fine. He came here, he got shots and got his teeth done the same day, and he's had a heart arrhythmia that they couldn't fix for the rest of his life, and he's not a hunter jumper horse. These are too many stresses. And they'll say, but it has nothing to do with that. Well, you hauled the horse across country. That's a stress. Certainly wouldn't be vaccinating or worming before any shows, any hauling, any stressing. Then as soon as he gets here and he's got a different sun, different change, different weather, different feed, get adjusted to that. You're going to go and put all these things in his system. Well, his system is already stressed. Horses don't understand being sold. They had no choice about being moved. Nobody's explained that to them. They are sentient beings. So to prove my theory, my little white endurance horse, Tiki, I got him at 8 years old off the Arab racetrack in Sacramento. They only run 4.5 furlongs. Over-vaccinated, overwormed. That's what they do on the racetrack. I sent an Arabian from Washington to California, Los Alamitos. They wormed him every 30 days and vaccinated him every 60 days. When I got him back, he was blowing abscesses in all 4 feet for a year because I didn't know about pulling all of this stuff out. So I've seen, when you see abscesses, crumbly hoof walls, weepy eyes that aren't clear, these are all side effects of not just the virus, but the preservatives and carriers in the virus. Yeah. So I teach, let's split those up. Let's ask, does my horse really need it? Let's get together as a group with facts and videos to the barn owner, because they're just in fear. They're responsible for all these horses, and if there are people that are allowed to do their own thing, after a vaccination clinic, they're usually the only healthy horses still in the barn. All the other horses are processing everything they were being injected with.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of peer pressure or pressure from above when you have your horse in a barn. It's just unfortunately, the way it's set up. So it's like putting a dog into a boarding kennel or something like that.
And showing and competing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what people don't realize? If you are a holistic horse owner and your horse is out in pasture with vaccinated horses, they are shedding all over their urination, their feces for days. So your horse is still ingesting all that. So we're having so many health issues with the horses, but people aren't coming back down to the basics. What did we not do 40 years ago? All this vaccinating and worming.
Yeah.
What did we not have 40 years ago? Metabolic, Cushing, IR, all of these issues, allergies in horses.
Yeah, no, we didn't see that many. And when we had horses, or like my horse, he got a tetanus occasionally. That was it. We went to horse shows, but they were outdoors and pretty low key. And most of the people that went there, they didn't prep for horse shows by getting vaccines done.
No.
And I don't think my horse ever got sick.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. So, and people just need to look up, what titers are and get educated that you can do titers on a horse and see 7 years after their last vaccinations that they still have the antibodies for it.
Yeah.
I have people that have retired show horses that have been to Canada and around the world, and they're like, oh, yep, he can't even handle one shot. He goes down really bad if he gets anything. That's because the body is just so toxic. So we have to come back to the basics of how do we detox the liver and kidneys passively? When you're trying to detox a horse, a lot of those herbs and stuff pull the heavy metals out and dump them in the liver and kidneys that already can't handle it. I had that with my Tiki endurance horse. I had talked to someone about some detoxes, given it to him. His liver crashed. We were at an endurance ride, and if he trotted for more than 10 to 12 minutes, I ran with a heart rate monitor. His heart rate would be up over 180. And this was just an
That's not
easy ride
cool.
in the desert. And I thought my cinch was loose because if the girth isn't tight, your heart rate monitor won't work. But when we got to the vet check, it took him almost 20 minutes to pulse down to 60, which you need to continue. So the vets were
Okay.
worried, and we were looking because this is only like a 2/3 way. We had 5 miles to finish. I had signed up for a 2-day 100. So if you pulled on day 1 or day 2, you didn't get all of it. I was also sponsoring a 14-year-old junior rider. The vets were looking him over, peeing fine, eating up a storm, drinking, temperature fine, muscles soft, not tying up, but that really high elevated heart rate. So we did finish. We walked the next 4 miles, a very long walk, and I had the vets check him over again, couldn't find anything. We did day 2 with me watching his heart rate monitor. He could only trot or canter for 8 minutes before it elevated. And then I had gone back to my healer guru, and he said, everything that you gave to detox the horse from all the stuff on the racetrack that had been done to him, all the shots, all the injections, dumped in his liver that couldn't handle it. So that was a huge wake-up call. And then when I did my detox protocol, instead of what I had paid $800 for, mine's like $100. Within 6 to 8 weeks, his feet totally changed. And the shoer's like the hoof wall is twice as thick, and I can really carve out. And we had done 2,000 miles of endurance in 2 years with no vet pulls because I was learning this program, implementing it on my horse, and kind of like trying to prove that this worked. And the main thing that I wanted to say, in 2 years, he never got vaccinated or wormed. I did it all holistically. He was at endurance rides in Utah, Death Valley, California, Oregon, and Washington, drinking water with 100 other sloopy horses, washing their bits off in the water. And all I did
Yeah.
was boost his immune system before, during, and after. We had 2,000 miles of completion of 50 miles or more in a day, no worming, no vaccinations. So it is possible, but I had to support his liver, clear his liver. And then I'm like, but why would this detox protocol make better feet? So when you're doing 2,000 miles in 2 years, you're reshoeing every 5 weeks. We had frog concussion pads on. So what I figured out is with this detox protocol, he was now getting more out of his nutrition program. I'd been feeding Dynamite Nutrition, but how can a passive heavy metal detox show up in feet 6 weeks later when the hoof is supposedly growing down for a year? The hoof wall thickened to double. The carving out of the sole was like, coconut. He said, wow, this is really good. And at 5 weeks, we could cut off so much hoof that there was no more nail holes. How many people reshoe for horses for shows between 5 and 8 weeks, and you're trying to miss the old nail holes, which just weaken the hoof wall? And you got to remember that we're doing 50 miles a day for 2, 3, 4 days in a row on the same horse. I would pull shoes when we got home. He'd run barefoot because I believe the horses need to ground. They need that frog pump, get the toxins out of the legs. And I just supported his system nutritionally. Give him 2 weeks off if we did 200 miles to be in the pasture, grain him, fly spray him, and then start the whole training program again. 2 years, 2,000 miles, no lameness, no vet pulls, no metabolic issues. So it is possible.
Yeah, and you're doing all these other enhancements to keep everything healthy, and the hooves growing like crazy, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And getting out, everyone's like, what do I need to add so my horse's feet to be better? I said, you need to clear out all the toxins so that he can absorb his nutrition and have a healthy hoof first.
Yeah.
Before adding a hoof supplement and a coat supplement. And, I tell people your horse cannot fully assimilate the nutrition program that he's on now until you do this passive heavy metal detox, which opens the receptor sites, clears out. So mercury blocks magnesium. Everything is
Yeah.
always blocking the absorption of something. If you have mercury in every shot that's being given to the horse, it's adding up in their system. I'm on Maui. All the horses here that people do hair analysis on, they're aluminum toxic. Where is that coming from? Is it the vaccines? Is it the chemtrails? There's that controversy of it, but it's landing in their water. Why is every horse on Maui aluminum toxic?
Yeah, it's in the environment, and the environment can take up all those things, right?
Right.
So, yeah. But pinning it down, and I haven't seen a study that does that. You haven't either, have you?
I've had vets, post on my Facebook things, where's your proof? Where's your diagnostics? And I say, I'll do all the work. I'll supply all the products if you do all the diagnostics. And I never hear from them again.
That's because it's called money. And that's the issue with it. And just to clear it up for some people, because April, you're talking about vaccines contain mercury, aluminum, things like that. The reason they have that in there is to boost the immune response. So, in other words, it's going to make the body react more ambitiously to the vaccine and therefore create better immunity, which lasts longer. So that's the whole idea of adding, as we call it, an adjuvant to vaccines. But unfortunately, yeah, they've been
Have they
linked to
proven that? Have they
problems.
given, strangles without that? Have they given West Nile without that and tested two identical horses? Or is
Well,
it just what they're saying
yeah.
that this should?
Yeah. Yeah. No, they use the additives to boost the immune response, and that's what they're trying to do. So it's expected that the vaccines will have those adjuvants in there. Now, the large animal, and talking about horses, are way behind the small animal world in terms of where the vaccines are going. And so, what happened in the small animal world, I don't know if you're familiar with this, is cats were coming down with tumors that were occurring at the injection site. And so at first, one of the things that was blamed for that was the adjuvants. And that is, oh, it's the chemicals are adding, which the body's reacting to, that are creating these tumors called the fibrosarcoma in cats. But subsequent studies said that no, that's not actually the case. It's not the adjuvants, because what they did is they created vaccines without the adjuvants, and they were called different things, but they were pure vaccines, they were clean vaccines, they got rid of all the extraneous gunk. But the study showed that the incidence of cancer was exactly the same between the pure ones and the ones with adjuvants. So that is not the key in cats to vaccines. Okay. The thing about horses is, as far as I know, they haven't gone to any extreme at all in terms of producing a vaccine without an adjuvant or that's clean, because this is the key. People aren't calling for it.
Yeah, there's people that are just moving their horses out and having to pay more instead of, trying to come together as a group. And everybody's like, oh no, I want my horse protected. I'm going to a show in 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
when I was working horse shows or working at Tevis, because Tevis used to be in my backyard, and you see when the horses get pulled and they're tied to the trailer with an IV bag because they were tying up. Every owner I ever walked to whose horse tied up in an event, I said, so did you worm or vaccinate within the last 3 weeks? And they're like, yes, but that has nothing to do with this. I'm like, well, then how did I know? And they're like, well, how could that be related to this? You stressed the horse's system out so much, it couldn't handle the stress of the lactic acid, and the liver couldn't clear, the lactic acid in the muscles. And, I didn't have one single person with a tied up horse that didn't say yes to that question.
That's just a rumor, April.
I know. It's just a coincidence, just like that bad bale of hay
But
that my horse ate and he
yeah,
colicked. And,
yeah,
or even see horses founder after a vaccination clinic. The
yeah.
next day they can barely walk.
No, no, and the problem is that this is something that's and people like you are telling others about it, but it's really under the radar, and it's also, I'll call it poo-pooed. Conventional
Well, it's under the
veterinarians
radar
say,
because
yeah,
my clients say the vet says you're diagnosing or treating and you can't do that. So I always have to tell my clients, if this was my horse, I wouldn't be doing any shots anymore. I would be doing this protocol that we're going to talk about in your next part.
yeah, yeah. Well, the key is we've got the reason I got this conference going was so that people can see that there are alternatives. And that is, we don't have to just follow the mantra that vaccines are effective, harmless, and such. And the other speakers are certainly pointing towards all that entire theme. So thank you for bringing up your thoughts on this, April. It's been really good. And we're going to see, as you mentioned, in part two, we're going to look at some alternatives in terms of vaccines. But if people want to follow you, you've got some resources for them as well. Do you want to tell us about one?
Yeah, so my website is HolisticHorseWorks.com. I have a YouTube video with over 200 helpful videos. I have a podcast page. I'm on Buzzsprout. We're going to be giving a free book, the Horse 102 book for everybody, which goes into some of these.
Mm-hmm.
In my class, this is my workbook of what we teach, looking at the whole horse's system, the acupressure meridians, what's affected. So I'm pretty sure you're going to put up that QR code. They're going to be scanning that for a free ebook
How about
download.
this? And here it is. I'll get it on the screen somehow. Okay, so people can scan that. But the link I'm also going to have below the webinar. So you don't have to get your camera out right away to check it. So people will find it for you, April. No problem.
Awesome. So glad that you invited me here today.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on board. And I look forward to catching you in part two, as we'll call it. And so hopefully everyone's got a little bit of an idea on what April is talking about here. And the whole issue is a lot of it's not talked about. And so we're going to be opening up that whole door for everybody here. So
And
thank you,
ask your
April.
friends, did these symptoms come up 2 or 3 weeks after the shots? Start asking questions.
Yeah, no, that's the key.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Holistic Horseworks Talks with April Love. Remember to check the show notes for links to all the resources mentioned in this episode. Have a question you'd like to submit to the podcast? Email April at HolisticHorseWorks.com for a chance to get it featured on the next episode. Loved this information? Share it with your horse friends. They'll find it helpful too. To learn more, visit HolisticHorseWorks.com. And before you go, make sure you have a copy of our free ebook, Horse 101, Everything You Wish You Had Known Before You Got Your First Horse, at HorseAcademy101.com. Now available, a new app for remedial horse therapy from nose to tail, hoof to withers, Holistic Horseworks Remedies.